that sense.
Right.
Because I think there's a lot of segments that we're not familiar with, and this is a great way to meet people that are in those segments. So if it's aeronautical to mechanics to I guess meat or poultry, then you can have those questions and maybe people can come up with ideas instead of always focusing on how do I change the world that I know and that's it, where there's so much other places you can get involved in and start to bring back some of your tech or some of those types of initiatives. And just from this segment alone, you have somebody in the tech space, which is in like obviously Jolie in the software space. And then you have Kristen, who's in the tech space, software development space, and then Lori, who's in the hardware space. So yes, it's all built around tech, but they're not exactly the same verticals. That's servicing a different part of the industry. Mm-hmm. So we figured if we could get everybody in different segments, they would all have different personal views, and we could treat it just like a George Strombolopoulos show, where it's the Strombo show, and he's being able to ask those celebrities their questions and get them excited. And really, that's what it's about. It's not that I'm George, probably won't be able to fit George's shoes, but if we were able to get those questions out of you guys, which you're the pros in what you do, then we can carry that back and people can get access to you guys, and then you build your networks as well, helping out other entrepreneurs.
Perfect.
So that's the premise of OPN.
Mm-hmm. And do you want to give a quick outline of what we were going to discuss today, and maybe like a preview of next week?
For sure. And I think what it comes down to is that we have a list of questions, and here's 4 or 5 topics of discussion. And once we have those great discussions about, little tidbits, you can post them and go forward. But really they are coming down to is just questions that we felt were exciting and interesting, that would open up things between in a dialogue, I guess. And I think some of them are, what was your best sales win, to what attracted you to sales, maybe some statistics around the difference between men and women in sales and how that stands out. And it's actually quite significant. So that makes a big difference as well. So
definitely.
And if you want, we can throw the question out right now and we can just say, like, maybe here, why don't we do this? And you can take a snap at it. But why don't we stop in the top quadrant and work our way around? So Kristen, why don't you give a quick snapshot of who you are and then answer one question, which would be something that nobody knows about you that you want to share. And I'll give you an example. I can hold my breath underwater for 2 minutes or longer. So it's something unique and different, but why not? So let's just start with that. So Kristen, you're up.
Okay, cool. So I was previously an entrepreneur. I have sort of a bit of a more diverse background, but previously was an entrepreneur, ran a marketing company, did an MBA, and then got into sales on the financial side rather than tech. But my true love is in tech, so and always has been. So I'm back in the industry, and here I am. So, like I said, pretty diverse. But I think, from all those experiences, I've really had a pretty, sales has pretty much been incorporated into the vast majority of that, whether it's as an entrepreneur or, on the financial side, and now, what we're doing now with Hardboot. And despite all those different experiences, different industry verticals and such, it's been very sales oriented, I guess. And in terms of something that people wouldn't know about me, let's see. I used to breed sugar gliders, which are little marsupial animals that kind of look like flying squirrels, but they're related to the kangaroo. So I used to breed them and sell them to Super Pet when I was like 11 or 12 years old.
Wicked.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
I want one now. I don't even know what I'd do with it, but I want one.
They have pouches, so like kangaroos, but they're like the size of little chipmunks, and they kind of look like chipmunks, and they like glide like flying squirrels. So
you carry like a little shot glass, and they just kind of jump around.
I carried them in like one of those fanny pack things.
Nice.
And one time I brought one of them to school, and it got loose in my locker. That was really scary. But then it was like in one of my binders, like wrapped inside one of the binder rings. sleeping, so thank God. But
You know what's weird is I was going to guess that that was the thing that nobody knew about her. I'm totally bullshitting.
Like, that's amazing.
Your psychic
Very
ability.
good insights. Very good insights.
Nailed it.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right, Joel, you're up.
Yeah, so my background, guys, I'm originally from the US. I actually came to Canada in 1993, thinking I was going to be here for about 2 years. And 22 years later, I'm still in Canada. So I came up with a large company to open their first international expansion for the Canadian market. I've literally sold, in multiple verticals, both, financial, insurance, automotive, nonprofit. Jumped, as I said, my most recent was with PayPal. I was the third employee for the PayPal group, and with a focus on building the enterprise sales business. I actually have had a background as well in operations. So I managed, I've managed anywhere from 2 to 100 employees as part of that. And then kind of moved back to single contributor sales. And then recently joined Adobe Canada, focusing on the digital marketing cloud. So that's where I sit now. Something no one would know about me. God, I'm so transparent. I think everybody knows everything about me. But I thought about my sales. No one would probably know that I got my first sales gig. My brother and I, our parents, we ran wild as children with no supervision. It was like Pippi Longstocking all day long, if you guys have ever read that. And so we started a business. I was probably 9 and he was 12. And we would go buy candy because we were the only ones allowed to cross this really busy street. And then we would mark it up and sell it to all the kids in the neighborhood. So that's probably where I got I don't think anybody knows we did that, but that's where I got my start.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
You think like an entrepreneur too. I think salespeople do though, naturally. I think it's
yeah, I think it's a fit, right?
Yeah.
I think you have to have an entrepreneurial spirit probably to go into it in the first place, for sure.
Yeah. And you need that internal motivation as opposed to the, being told what to do every day. You sort of need to know this is what I have to get done in a day to make my goals and that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
For sure. That's pretty cool. I like it. All right, Lori, you're up. I have an insert for that, but I'm going to hold back. I'm not going to say
Okay. Where do I start? So I've been doing this. It'll be 20 years next year, believe it or not. So I started when I was 12. Primarily in entrepreneurial businesses. I was part owner of a company before we got sold a number of years ago. Went to a major manufacturer for almost 2 years. Now I'm back to the entrepreneurial side. Decided that that's where I like to be. I'm not the type of individual that does well with being managed. I enjoy managing myself. I enjoy answering to myself, and I love the sales stuff. I mean, I got into it kicking and screaming. I blame my father. He was in sales before me. And I guess the first company that I worked for, we actually built the FundServe network. So FundServe is the back end for the mutual fund industry in all of Canada. So that was my first exposure to some really great entrepreneurial minds. And I guess, what's the one thing that people don't know about me? I used to have a fear of heights when I was younger. Yeah. I was deathly afraid of heights. So I've since gotten over that. I haven't gone skydiving or anything yet. I probably will, but yeah.
Wow.
Awesome. I guess you have to practice jumping off chairs and then you move up.
Yeah. I used to do the whole umbrella thing, when it was really, really windy out and you jump off of the chair or the picnic table outside and see if that worked.
Mary Poppins style.
Exactly.
I like it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think from an entrepreneurial side of things too, like one of the things that you have to have is you got to have a sense of pushing yourself, right? Like you're always going to set your limits beyond where you know that you can easily achieve them. And it's a little bit of being an adrenaline junkie too, right? Because you like the rush of getting into new things, and it makes you really, really excited. So,
Megan wants to know, how you got over it. What's the secret? She still can't jump off chairs yet.
Oh, the fear. It's exposure. It's little baby steps. I'm still afraid of spiders. I won't touch those things, but I dealt with the heights.
I'll duly noted. Make sure I send you a bag of spiders or something.
No.
So interesting on the part about where you were saying the different ways and techniques that we've all had, or different skill sets that we've had over the years. And one of the ones that I thought was fascinating, that where you would resell chocolate. I didn't resell chocolate, but what I had done was that in the Loblaws confectionery field, I had started working in IT, so I was a developer / network guy, pretty much did everything. And in order for me to be able to meet more people quicker, easier, I basically set up a candy shop. So at the time, I was dating a girl that worked in confectionery, and she would get all the chocolate bars and chips and everything like that sent to her. So she would test the product. So she probably had tons of it. I don't know how much. And I would get her to send me a shipment of it like weekly. So every Monday I would get a big box full of candy, and then I would use those big boxes to go meet people so I could get stuff that I needed to run servers in my cubicle, so that I could run movie servers, audio, video servers, and everything else. So when people would come into the office, because I worked in the back end, which was all secure, lock-in, scan pass, everybody would come in and be like, Jeffrey, I need like a Mars bar and a Twix bar. And I'd be like, well, I need a pizza box server. And they'd be like, well, and I'm like, okay, here's 6 candy bars. Go get me one. And my desk had computers all stacked up, and I'd have them all wired up, and they'd be running hard drives, backup everywhere, and they'd be movie servers, and I'd be ripping movies all the time. I'm sure Loblaws doesn't know this, but that's not true.
They do now.
They do now.
They do now. So, but it was fascinating because like 5 years later, when I left the company, I got a call from IT, and I'm like, so Jeffrey, do you still need this backup drive of all these movies? We've been backing it up. I'm like, no, you can get rid of it now.
Okay.
So, but it was interesting that I used or worked with, in that sense, using the candy as a way to open up to other people and have something that they may have wanted just for a fix for the day, right? So in order for me to kind of build a network up of people I knew and things that I could do and have access to. So it was quite fascinating. So.
And I made a profit off it, so you see why we're in sales.
Yeah, I made some friends like that.
I do.
Profit's kind of important.
I do.
Yeah. No, it's good.
But I do agree with you. I always have candy at my desk. It's kind of weird for me now. I'm working from home, but one of the analysts sent me a note saying, I missed the hell out of you. And I thought, oh, that's so nice. And he's like, all the candy you had at your desk. I'm like, you bastard.
There was more to me than the candy.
Yeah, it was never me.
No, I like that. So, and I know that we're going to get into all this, and I guess, but for just maybe because we only have a few minutes, and it would be interesting to ask, but maybe if you gave everybody had one example of, say, a challenge or something exciting that really got you, like everybody's like your first sale kind of makes it the best. And personally, I can't even remember what that was. I'm going to assume that my first sale was personal, like it was maybe not in my own company. And I could tell you the first story I had when I guess I started the company off, and I was shocked that it actually went forward, and we can talk about that. But there's something that got you into sales that had to get you interested, and maybe it was the first candy bar that you sold and made a profit on. You're like, man, this was easy. I should sell chocolate bars, resell everything. Here, buy my bike. So like there could be a million things that got you excited, but what's that one thing that kind of put you over the line that said, you know what, sales is for me, and this is what I'm going to do? And maybe Jolie, you can start.
Yeah, I can take. I think, I think I was attracted to it from a really early age, and I have to say that when I kind of look back, it was probably my dad. My dad wasn't in sales; he was a police officer. He was far from it, but that was part of it. He really celebrated my competitiveness. He celebrated when I negotiated. I would go out at like 13, 14, negotiate our carpeting, negotiated the RV camper. And I think it was a natural extension of sports too. So I always grew up playing competitive sports and, obviously doused with a lot of character and integrity. So I think for me, we grew up with very little, candidly, and money was always a source of stress. And I think very early on, I just thought, you know, whatever I do, whether that's to own my own business, which I'll do at some point too, I'm going to decide what I make. And I'm not going to get a salary and get the same check every single month. I can't even fathom that. And I've never done that since the day I graduated. Even when I was working through school, I had positions where I'm determining what I made. And I think that intrinsic motivation came from wanting to help my parents, quite frankly, and just being attracted to the love of negotiation and helping people. I think sales is really also about helping people. When you're good at sales, you know, you are taking all this incredible information and best practices, and you're bringing that to your customer. And so for me, all those things sort of merged to get me into this. And that's all I've ever done, you know, since I graduated. Like I say, even before, I worked 3 jobs in school. And a lot of those, I was selling hot tubs and water beds in university as one of my 3 jobs. So I think it's just come natural for sure.
Oh, very cool. Lori?
Yeah, so as I said, my father was in sales. He was actually in IT as well. He worked for Sun Microsystems for a number of years, and then NCR and DEC, and you know, I mean, you name it. He was with the bigger companies. And you know, I started in retail, right, when I was a teenager. So Champ Sports, you know, got into that, and I really enjoy the interaction with people, right? And I also like the competitiveness of it. I respect all of my competitors in the industry. I like button heads with them and knowing that I can get one up on them, and I know how to do it very, very well. You know, it's never underhanded. It's always done in an ethical manner. But you know, I like winning, right? And I think that you have to have that sort of mentality when you're in sales. I mean, you know, like as salespeople, we don't like to lose. I don't like being told no, right? You tell me no, and I'm going to find a different way to yes. You know, and you know, again, it's the people interaction, right? Like I've got customer relationships for me that go back 15, 16 years. You know, just because I've developed that bond with them, and it's more than just a client. Like we actually become good personal friends. So it's pretty awesome.
That is pretty cool. So we need to start connecting with these people that you've known for a long time. As you've they carried them through the life cycle of sales, but then they've become friends at that time. So you can lean on them at any point in time when you're driving out sales. So it's kind of a neat concept. Instead of everybody always looking for that next sale, it's maybe try to build a relationship with the sale you're already in, which is going to obviously help in the growth of you, not just now, but in the future you as well.
Absolutely. Because I mean, I can call those people up now. Some of them are still in the industry. Some of them have left the industry. You know, they'll pick up the phone. They'll agree to meet with me. They'll help me network with other people. You know, and networking is huge, right? You got to have that ability to reach out like beyond your network. And it always helps when you have a warm intro into somebody. So it's, you know, so-and-so knows so-and-so, and they can get you in the door. It's a lot easier, right? Because there's a ton of people that are picking up the phone and dialing for dollars, and you know, it's not really the most effective way to sell these days.
I guess it's a starting point, but it doesn't exactly. It may not always work at the end, right? So
no,
it's the catchphrase. I guess it's like dating, right? The pickup line. If it works or it doesn't work. And Kristen, because you've bounced between a couple of different industries, being in finance to now tech and marketing, do you find that those same things occur? Like, how do you see that happening?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I sort of fell into a strictly sales role almost by accident and not by design per se. But I just always had, you know, I guess because I was always, you know, constantly growing my network and loved meeting new people and interacting with people. It just, you know, I guess a lot of people were just telling me that would be a field that I would probably enjoy, and they're right. I've gotten into it. It is, you know, it is really, like we were saying, an entrepreneurial type of job, really. And it's almost like a hybrid role in a sense between running your own business and working for someone else. Yeah, I just love the challenge of it and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I guess it was just sort of by accident, but the way it happened. But in terms of, you know, like what Lori was saying, you know, with dialing for dollars and, you know, working your network, I've actually been on both, you know, work-wise, I've been on both sides of that. So in the finance realm, it is very dial for dollars, where I was cold calling, literally, you know, 100 dials a day, 150 dials a day, some days, and, you know, day in and day out. And that's not necessarily, I mean, it's, first of all, it's, you know, it's obviously can be effective, and it is effective, you know, at times, but it's very tiring. And I don't think it's necessarily, I guess it's always industry dependent, but in this sense, you know, like I see Lori's point, that, you know, there's a lot more effective ways to sell nowadays. And that's, you know, in building your network and using LinkedIn, for instance, and trying to connect with people who are, you know, centers of influence, so to speak, that act as the, you know, a referral spoke, where they can, you know, maybe they have a huge network and they know a lot of people, and they can refer, you know, business to you potentially when you have that trusting relationship. And just, you know, making, getting introduced to relevant people as well, just through your network. So I think the game is definitely changing in that sense, and I think technology is making it even easier as well. So,
and we all like the money.
Yeah.
I'm not sure salespeople ever admit that, but I'm guessing that it has a certain underlying piece of it, right? It certainly does.
It's a big driving factor.
Listen, I think all salespeople admit that, but I do think your intrinsic motivation, like for me, I'm happy. There's not a lot of stuff I want, but it's pretty cool when you get your first commission check at like 22 and you get to go buy your parents a cruise. That's pretty cool stuff. So when I hired a bunch of employees, what I would always do is I'd say, and that's one of my interview questions. Hey, if I handed you $10,000, what would you do with it? And the employee that tells you they'll do something for somebody else, hire them, because that's a very different intrinsic motivation. And I would always have my employees take a picture of that. I remember interviewing a kid, and he got very choked up, and he said, you know, my mom died, or my father died, I'm sorry, and there are 8 of us kids. And my mom's never been able to go back to Ireland. And I'll tell you, that kid, bar none, the best salesperson I ever hired. And when he got hired, I put that picture on his desk, and I said, you know, you'll know you've made it when you can go do that. And I just fulfilled a dream of buying my dad a car. You know, it was always my childhood dream. So I think the money is for sure a motivator. It has to be when you're in sales, because you take a lot of rejection, so you better want that. But look for the people, if you're hiring for sales, that aren't going to do it for just themselves. They've definitely got a bigger thing at stake, right? Because you're going to need that through the tough times, for sure.
It's interesting. A friend of mine, when she was hiring a few people about a month back, and I was sitting in a foyer of a hotel, and there was a carpet that was rolled up, and 10 people had stepped over the carpet, around the carpet, even though it was a nuisance. And one lady actually stopped, walked back, and unfolded the carpet. I texted her right away, and I was like, I got a task. Anybody you're going to hire, fold the carpet up and find out who unfolds the carpet. That's who you got to hire. And she's like, you're crazy. I'm like, no, she knows how to multitask. I mean, she's doing extra stuff. She's going above and beyond, other than the fact of just caring about herself and whatever else. And she's like, fascinating. So I'm sure there's a lot of things that we can come up with that would allow to offer that value, right? That is, what thing can we test, or what thing can we throw out there to find if that person will actually go above and beyond, or they're good-hearted, or they mean more than their life is based around dollars and cents, right? I know personally, it's a tough thing to look back, even if I look at all the things I've done in my past and said, what drove me to be an entrepreneur? Was it my first paper route where I was riding around my bike selling newspapers at 25 cents? I know that sounds like a long time ago. It's like a phone call or something, but was that drove me into doing it? Or was the fact that I got my peace and quiet time while I was selling newspapers and I was outside smoking cigarettes on the lake because I was by myself? Who knows what it was, but the value is that I was driven to do something, and I offered a value and a solution, which was get a newspaper in someone's hand. So if you take that forward in anything that we've done, it's either value in offering a great deal, money, or support and solving a problem. So everybody kind of picks their space on what benefits them the most, right?
Or it's all of them too. Right?
Or it's all of them together, right? For sure.
Yeah, like I mean, I've taken my skill set, obviously, which is doing selling, and I volunteer for a children's charity, right? So we do a massive auction every year, and we look for donations at the auction. So I sit on the phone and I dial and I go out to businesses and I pull in, any donations of products or services that we can possibly get, right? And that's huge because it's knowing that you're giving back. Like you've got to have something that grounds you. As well, right? That's big.
Agreed.
Hey, Jeff, I do want to be mindful on the time though, because it's 7:15. I know we said we weren't going to get into the full blown,
but it sounds like it's going
but
well.
we're in the full blown. I'm just calling that out.
No, for sure. So why don't we do this? Just because I know because of time and well, we can all talk forever, obviously, which is great, and there's lots of good info. So why don't we do this? We'll leave it with. As Ricardo would say, just kind of sucks us all in, and then you're like, wait a second, it's 10 o'clock at night. How do we talk this long? Why don't we throw out one thing, which is if you had a tactic or a thought that you could provide to the world right now that would ease somebody's pressure in sales, what would it be?
Rejection isn't personal.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Like, don't take it personally. You're going to be told no. You're going to be yelled at. You're going to be called names. You got to develop a very, very thick skin. You really do.
Yeah, listen, I'd say for me, I've had overwhelmingly positive. I've never been kind of on the telemarketing type, hardcore. But I would say have fun. I always think anything listen, what we get to do is a privilege. It's not like a task. And, somewhere there's somebody standing in a food line, so suck it up. Right? I mean, first world problems. So I would say have fun with it and know that what you're doing is of value. And I think when you do that, when you take, oftentimes people confuse selling with manipulation. It's nothing. It's not that at all. It's persuasion. But selling is noble. And I think just have fun with it. You're going to learn more from the hard stuff than you are from the easy stuff. And I think that's always the approach I've taken to anything I've done. If it's rejection, you're going to know how not to treat somebody in the future. So kind of take that path. And I think if you keep that perspective and just have a lot of fun with it, then, listen, it's a great profession. I tell so many people, I was just on a plane with a young girl, she was 12. And we got to talking about what I did. And by the end of it, she's like, I'm going into sales. So I was like, there you go for it, right? So, yeah, I would just say have fun. Right?
And to add to that, I'd say also always maintain your ethics. Never, ever do something that you are not going to feel good with doing. That's huge, right? You got to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and then know that you're okay with the manner in which you've presented yourself. So make sure that you always keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yep. Ethics, fun, and don't worry about rejection.
Yep.
And it sounds like dating again, eh?
It is dating, kind of.
Well, I love it. So I'm actually typing things. That's why I'm posting things, and hopefully it worked. But I can take the last 30 seconds and keep pushing them off. So hopefully that's what's happening here. Well, as I'm putting this out, it's fun. Don't worry about rejection. All right. So I guess maybe what we'll do is. What's that?
I just saw your Twitter feed.
Oh, it's working. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's working.
Last time it didn't work, so that's why I'm excited it's working. Okay, well, I love it. I appreciate all your guys' time, and I think that we certainly got something here, and we recorded all this, so even better. So we did get, I have no idea how much time we got in, but it sounds like we probably got a good 30 minutes in, which is awesome. And we're going to try and rebook something up so we can have this even deeper discussion and get some more information from you guys, and we'll keep going. But I appreciate all your time, and thank you for the technical efforts to get in, and we'll we'll take it from there.
Awesome.
And thanks, guys.
Ricardo, you're a good man.
Thanks for hosting, Jeffrey.
Yeah, great to meet everyone.
Cheers.
Take
Take
care.
care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Wicked.